Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Red, White, and Bills. It is the Motown takeover, the first of 2 games in Detroit within the next 4 days, starting tomorrow, because it's Saturday at the time of recording. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Drop a like when you When you drop in, drop a like, subscribe, share out the video. Let me know your thoughts. It was a pretty hectic week. I mean, people that live in Buffalo, you guys know there was 6 feet, 7 inches of snow. Close to taller than Josh Allen in snow. So I mean, I can't imagine the hecticness, the craziness, the worry of that sheer amount of snow. We get that pretty bad out in Utica, but we didn't get anything this week. But nonetheless, they had to move the game to Detroit due to safety reasons for not just the players, but for the people attending, for the staff, and just obvious things of that nature. Some people it's not obvious, but to most it's an obvious reason. But I mean, you took a look at the stadium. There's been pictures circulating. The entire thing was covered. I mean, I still think there's a travel ban in Buffalo. I mean, they had a snow plow and get escort to get the players out of their house into the buses to get to the airport. So I mean, definitely wasn't a condition to be playing in, let alone to be on the road. But it appears they took off, and the game should be starting at 1:00 tomorrow. But I mean, yeah, we're the home team, but it's still not really home field. But Bills Mafia came through within the last 2 days. They bought 56,000 tickets to the game. Well, mixing, but mainly Bills Mafia. So I mean, it might not be a completely full game, but Bills Mafia does what Bills Mafia does best. No other fan base would be doing this. I can promise you that. No matter how diehard fan bases think they are, they wouldn't go to the lengths of supporting their team like our team does. And you should take a lot of pride in that. Definitely take a lot of pride in that. Well, let's get down to it. The first section is who to watch, of course. Let's start with the Browns, the second away team, technically. But obviously you can't talk about the Browns without first talking about Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in that running attack. Nick Chubb, this guy just surprises you every week with how absolutely talented he is. You're not surprised, but then you're just like, wow, you thought he could have a bad game this week because of the matchup, and he goes out and lights up the field. I mean, him and Saquon, I mean, pick your poison. Which one's the best in the league? Nick Chubb running behind a very excellent offensive line, and that's a true 1A, 1B tandem backfield. Yeah, Kareem Hunt's not the same level as Nick Chubb, but Nick Chubb's got 11 rushing touchdowns already. He averages 5 yards a carry and 3.4 yards a carry after contact. And, Buffalo struggles with arm tackling and just tackling technique in general. So you hear that stat and you're just kind of like, oh, man, he gets 3.4 yards a carry against everyone else. Imagine what he'll get against a team like us where we like to arm tackle and we don't finish and wrap up. So that's definitely the first thing you got to think about is their run game. But referring back to, Derrick Henry in the Baltimore game, we stopped Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Kenyon Drake, and we held Derrick Henry to 25 rushing yards. Yeah, we blew out the Titans, but when it was close and Henry got the ball, he didn't do anything with it. So we know we could stop the run. But that's going to be what their main focus is, even in the Dome, is run the ball, because they've been watching the Bills for the last 3 weeks, and because that's their strong suit. Yeah, you got Amari Cooper, who's the second guy you got to watch. Amari Cooper is a true number one wide receiver. He can line up on anybody, man, and play. And we're not going to have Trey White again this week, so it's going to be Dane Jackson. Don't know Kyer Elam's status yet. He wasn't ruled out, so I'm not sure what he's going to be doing. But either Christian Benford or Dane Jackson, it's still a tall order. He's a big body receiver, great catch radius, great hands, speed. He's got it all. So when they do throw the ball, we can't have what happened last week where they just threw to one guy and he had 200 receiving yards and just made everybody look like kids. Can't have that happen this week, even though their main focus is going to be running the football. Next, Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is probably you could argue the best defensive end in the league right now. He's absolutely insane. He's big, strong, quick, fast, great feet, great hands, great rush move, great finesse moves. He's got everything. And he's going against our best lineman, Mr. Chenault, Deion Dawkins. So he'll get his. Deion will get his. It'll be a great matchup to watch. But, I mean, Myles Garrett, man, he could wreck a game. And he's done that multiple times. And, broadcasters will say it. Oh, Myles Garrett, he could wreck a game. The next play, he'll get a strip sack, and then it'll be a return for a touchdown. You cannot allow Myles Garrett to beat you. You got to send tight ends help over there, running back, crack blocks, anything to slow him down to get to the quarterback, because they got a pretty decent front, especially led by Myles Garrett. Also, obviously, their offensive line, we had Wyatt Teller on the Bills, traded him to the Browns, and he's turned into one of the best guards in the league. They have a very efficient, excellent offensive line. So our defensive line, who's also a top unit in this league, will have their hands full, but nothing that they can't beat. It'll be definitely a great matchup to watch. But I think, when you're run blocking, those guys, those Browns offensive linemen, they're hard to beat. But I'm sure our guys are up for the challenge. Definite pressure inside is going to be extra needed this week, because you want to try to bounce out Nick Chubb, because you don't want him just a straight path and go. You want him to have to stop and have to pick a different lane and to bounce it outside, so you have a better opportunity to tackle him for a shorter gain than if he just bursted up the middle and broke through. Because, like I said, he 3.4 yards of carry after contact, which is like better than some running backs without contact, which is insane. But moving on to the Buffalo Bills, who to watch? I mean, you could pick 15 people. There's a lot of people that need to be watched for all different reasons. But number one, the obvious one, you got to see Josh Allen coming off his worst 3-game stretch of his career. The only time in his career where he had 2 interceptions in 3 games back to back to back. That's never happened. It's very uncharacteristic of him. He's making mistakes that he hasn't made in years. He probably feels like he has to do too much. He even said he's got to learn to trust his guys more, which I thought we got over that. But maybe he just feels like, I need to be the one to do it all. Maybe that's just his mantra and his attitude, which is fine, but you got to change that quick. I mean, he's having a pretty decent year, probably out of the MVP race, but what matters most is winning football games. And, people are waiting for a time where Josh fell down a little bit. They got what they wanted. Now Josh is going to do his thing. And then, obviously prove who we already knew he was to everybody else again. For some reason, he has to keep doing that, but he'll bounce back. All quarterbacks, as I mentioned in the weekly picks yesterday. Check out that segment if you haven't. Follow, subscribe to Nando Talk, my co-partner in weekly picks. Great content over there. But as I mentioned then, last year, Patrick Mahomes in the same spot after 9 games or 10 games for them. The Chiefs were 5-4, and Mahomes was 21 touchdowns and 10 picks. At the same time now, Josh is 6-3 and 24 touchdowns and 10 picks. But nobody really talked about it last year. It was more of like, oh, the Chiefs, I can't count them out. They're still the best team until someone tells them otherwise. And, even now when they got beat by the Bengals at home after they blew a lead, they're still the team that everyone says you got to beat them and prove it. But they've, I think they got to be the ones to do the beating now, technically, because the Bengals overstepped them last year. But my point is, it happens to everybody. Mahomes and Allen are top of the league, and it happens to them. It's going to happen. But you got 8 games left to show that it was just a rough skid. Get back to how you were playing the first 6 weeks, and then win some football games, win the division, go to the playoffs, get that 1 seed, and you go 1 game at a time. And even now it's 1 game at a time. I would say now every game is must win, because I said it last week, it was a must win. But now especially, you're 6-3, and I'm kind of rambling, but we haven't had a great football game in a month technically, because we had the bye week. So I'm just excited to get it going. But Josh Allen's the first person to watch. Definitely want to watch Ken Dorsey, and I'll even throw McDermott in there, because you traded for Nyheim Hines. Use the excuse, oh, you got to acclimate more. I don't believe that, because every other person that got traded, whether they had 1 practice or 3, They played in the game and had significant snaps in the game. And then even against us, Hawkinson, it was the second game with the Vikings after he got traded. He caught 10 balls for them. But now you're telling me that Nyheim Hines, who got more playing time on the Colts, can't come in here and get 1 or 2 carries at the freaking bare minimum? Yeah, something's not right there. So you traded for him and you don't want to utilize him. You got to. You got to utilize them. You got to utilize Cook. You got to utilize Singletary. You have so many weapons that are underutilized. Maybe that's why Josh doesn't trust everyone, because he doesn't get to use everybody properly. I mean, there's been mistakes galore. If you watch the film, you can pick apart what receivers are running routes too close together. Offensive linemen are whiffing on blocks. Josh is making bad decisions. It's a collective effort, but the coaching staff, especially Ken Dorsey and Sean McDermott, have to utilize the weapons that they have to their strength. So use McKenzie and jet sweeps. That's his strength. And slant routes and quick routes. Go Bills podcast. Go check Go Bills podcast out. He does some great content over there too. Many collabs with he did a show yesterday. Go check that out. I hope you utilize Rhodes. Yeah, man, it'll be interesting. And don't forget D. Marlowe too. The reason why we picked up D. Marlowe was because, Jordan Poyer is going to be hurt for a bit, and he knows the system. And guess what? He hasn't played one snap in the 2 weeks we've had him, and they've said that he doesn't know the playbook. So that doesn't make any sense to me. His whole career was in Buffalo, minus a year and a half, and you're telling me that he doesn't know the playbook? Doesn't make sense to me. Definitely frustrating. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see Rhodes and to see D. Marlowe in there. Obviously, D. Marlowe's not an elite safety, but Cam Lewis played a pretty decent game, minus a couple plays last week. But he's a corner. D. Marlowe's an actual safety who played in our scheme for years and knows it. Apparently, he forgot the playbook. So we must have the most complicated schemes, offense and defense, that nobody can figure it out to get playing time in 2 weeks. So I don't know, but need to use Klein. That's a great point. I almost forgot we got Klein back. So we re-signed AJ Klein, who again isn't an elite linebacker, but he's had some pretty solid games for us, and we have him back. Tremaine Edmonds is out this week, so that's a perfect moving out from the coaches. I mean, and this all depends on if the coaches want to utilize him. AJ Klein's a player to watch because they're a running heavy team, and I'm assuming if we want to stop the run, we probably shouldn't run the 4-2 nickel, and we should go into a traditional 4-3 for at least the majority of the game, and then stop the run, and then we can switch out into the 4-2 nickel whenever we want. But definitely got to show the base 4-3, and that's a perfect time to put Klein, Bernard, and Milano in. You got your 2 fast guys on the Mike and the Will. You put Klein in the middle, and then that's a great. And Klein's not the best in coverage. He's not like Tremaine, but he can cover probably a little bit better than Tyrell Dotson, and he's great in the run stuffing. You got Milano on the outside still. Give Bernard another start. He's your 3rd-round pick, and he's had 1 start. You got to give him more playing time to see what you got in him. So put him on the outside. See where that does for you. If it doesn't work, you can always change it. That's why you do it early. Do it early so you can get off to it, see how it is, and then go from there. But yeah, definitely got to see AJ Klein in there. He's been bouncing around since he left us, but again, a guy that knows the system, who's produced for us, and it'll be interesting to see. Next, got to have Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox used more. Gabe Davis finally had a pretty decent game last week. Decent as in like not just 2 catches for 200 yards, but he actually was catching first downs and getting open. But he's got to do more. You're number 2 guy. You really got to do more for us. Did you hear what Peterson said? Davis runs 3 different routes. Can't be that difficult of a playbook. Yeah, I was just about to touch on that. When advanced film watchers and veterans like Patrick Peterson figure out every tendency you have as a receiver, and you've been in the league for 3 years, it's kind of not good. Everyone, the book's out on that now. Everybody knows Gabe Davis is going to run these 3 routes. If he lines up in the boundary, if he lines up here, he's going to do these routes. He doesn't do everything. And not that he can't. It's just that's how we use him. So, hopefully this is where Dorsey's going to take it. So Dorsey's been a very solid offensive coordinator. And a lot of people say Daboll is better. But here's the thing. Daboll had almost 2 decades of experience coaching of offensive coordinator or head coach or whatever. Coached at Alabama. Terrible offensive coordinator until he had Josh with the Bills. then goes to get a head coaching job. He gets all the credit, but their defense is winning the games. They've only scored more than 20 points once all year. So, I mean, Daboll gets a lot of credit, always did. But Ken Dorsey, with his first year as offensive coordinator, he looked excellent. We looked better with him than Daboll for the most part. But he's taking his lumps now, and it's going to happen. Take him now as an offensive coordinator. Then when it gets to playoff time, you'll be fine. But definitely got to get Gabe Davis similar game to last week. 6 catches. Try to get into the 6 to 8 range as a number 2 guy. But we need production from more than just Diggs. Diggs can't do it all himself. Josh can do it all himself. Prove to everybody that when your number is called, you produce. And that's all you got to do. And definitely, I'm looking at the entirety of the defense for the run game. We've proven we can stop the run, but at the same time, I mean, the last few games we've been pretty suspect in it. And again, it's a lull. It happens. This team is too talented. They're a top 5 defense, a top 5 offense, and they just had a couple bad games that maybe put them out of the top 5. But overall, they're in that top 5, and they could probably end one in each, offense and defense. Moving on to the next segment. My banner here. Keys to victory. All right, everybody, put your keys to victory in the comments, in the comment section here. Let's start with the Browns. Keys to victory. Run the ball often, quick passes. Just, it's against an excellent pass rush. That's how you beat it. Quick passes. That's what the Jets did. And I said they got to do that if they want to win. You give Zach Wilson too much time to think, he'll make mistakes. You just tell him, snap the ball, here's a quick play. And that's all you had to do, and that's all he did. Kept him from turning the ball over. He didn't have a great game. Kept him from thinking, but he did enough to win. Didn't turn the ball over. Jacoby Brissett, is a veteran. He's won significant games. Yeah, I'm not going to say you could argue who's better between him and Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson's obviously got a higher ceiling. But when it comes down to it, Jacoby Brissett, hold on to the football, quick passes, run the ball often and heavy. And then that's what I would do offensively. Defensively, basically what everyone else has been doing. Get to Josh, bracket the number 1, put your number 1 on the second receiver, and he'll drop either drop it or who knows. So, but again, Josh is great with pressure, but if nobody's open, what are you going to do besides run around? So if Josh is going to get pressured, get open and give him opportunities to make a play. He'll make a play on his feet, but if you want the ball, you got to get open. You can't be too bunched up, screwing up routes, screwing up the play. Everyone's got to be playing complementary football. And that's what it comes down to, number 1. So that's my keys to victory for the Browns. For the Bills, and it seems to be the same after the last few weeks, stop the run, especially against a team with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I don't know if Njoku's playing yet. He wasn't listed out, but he's questionable. Him and Amari Cooper are their big weapons as receiver. I'm not gonna. Njoku's a tight end, but he basically could be a receiver. He's quick, big, great hands. But in the receiving category, those are the 2 guys. You got Donovan's People-Jones, but still, they're the top 2 guys. If Njoku's not playing, you can really focus on Amari Cooper, but mainly focus on stopping the run. Dane Jackson, it came out, most of the passes that Jefferson caught were contested 50-50 balls, but he caught 100% of them. So, we could apply the tight pressure, the tight coverage, but Amari Cooper's going to still come away with some, but it'll make Jacoby Brissett beat you and not Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Go Bills podcast. Bills, stop the run. Generated pass. I should have said mine before he went, but generated pass rush. Win the turnover battle and take the short check downs. Also stop Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. Hit the nail on the head. So we've been having, this defensive line's been the highlight of this defense. They've been stunning all year, but we've been turning the ball over way too much. So definitely got to win the turnover battle. Turnovers happen, but we're turning the ball over more than any other team right now, and it's not characteristic of us. And as far as the short check downs, Josh was doing that for the longest time. The big play's not there, check it down, live another day. But then he got something in him was like, I got to keep going for the big play again. and he stopped doing that for years. But he'll get back into that. It's an easy fix. Red zone efficiency. Man, you're like reading my mind. So red zone efficiency was one of the ones I was going to put because we're a bottom team in red zone offense, and majority of that comes down to coaching. Unfortunately, with the weapons we got, we just can't put it together scoring in the red zone as much as we should. And, oftentimes at least a field goes for us, and then we lose games. Because of it. Part of me doesn't agree with this a little bit, Brett, because especially last game, Ed Oliver on his own had 11 quarterback pressures at a D tackle. Jordan Phillips has been a monster. Ed Oliver has been a monster to me. I like to see a little bit more from Tim Settle, but Daquan Jones, he's been a beast too. So I think our whole defensive line has been pretty amazing all year. But I would agree that I'll even say a little bit more because I think they have been doing a pretty solid job this year. But definitely would like to see a little bit more pressure from them, and then that just stops the run. It puts more pressure on the quarterback, and all good things will happen. But yeah, red zone efficiency, 100%. Got to stop the run, stop the turnovers, get the playmakers the ball. Somebody besides Diggs step up. Coaches, please utilize your players. I know I'm not there practicing with you, but come on. Oliver did well, but it hasn't been consistent. It comes and goes too much. I don't know. Like I said, man, it's not all about sacks and tackles. I think they do a great job. Ed's been getting double and triple teamed, and again, he's not a huge D tackle. He's 285. So he's on the lighter side, but I think overall they've been getting a lot of pressure. But it's also at the same time we have to remember you can't get pressure every play. So it's a very hard thing to do because the guys in front of you, it's their job too, to stop you, especially on the line. That's just it's different from when you're playing in the secondary, line on line, beef on beef. It's hard to win every time. You're gonna get beat. One of them's gonna move faster than you one play. So and it happens. And a lot of times, if one guy's going off, like say Oliver's going off, you could scheme to get him out of the play. Like with Aaron Donald, what we did was double down, quick passes. He had one sack, and we held the ball too long. So there's ways to get around good pass rush. Those keys, win a coin toss, yeah. So we've only won out of 10 coin tosses, we've won one all season. So, man, it's a 50-50 chance, and 10% of the time you win. So talk about bad luck. Maybe someone else pick the coin toss this time around and switch it up. But definitely win a coin toss. That'd be awesome. But thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, also, probably this week, maybe after Thanksgiving, depending, I'm going to start a new segment. A friend of mine reached out to me on Instagram. He has Bill's Legacy on Instagram. He wanted to do a segment. I offered, hey, I got a segment idea. Are you in? I'm going to be calling it Him or Jim. I know it sounds stupid, but him, we all know him is the thing now. Diggs is him, right? So Jim would be just like you pick me up off the street, average Joe, pedestrian, didn't hack it in the game. So you watch the game. We pick one or two, maybe three Hims and Jims of the week. We talk about it. And I thought it would just be a fun, cool segment for everybody. Who's picking them? Oh, I don't know. They don't show the coin toss, but they usually probably send like Josh and a couple other captains out there. But they put Micah Hyde out for the overtime, and he didn't win either. So who knows? But we got to do something different because you got to start winning. Last year we were undefeated we were like 10-0 straight up until the Chiefs game. We lost both of them. So in the playoff game, but they had him or Jim segment coming out this week. And enjoy the rest of your night. God bless you all. Like, subscribe, share the video. More content coming out to you guys. Excuse me. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll talk before Thanksgiving, but holiday season's coming. If you're traveling, if your family's coming in, prayers to all you guys. Safe travels. And then we'll be seeing you before Thanksgiving, probably on Monday or Tuesday. Until next time, go Bills.